What's going on, everyone? I'm just a simple American man here today to react and talk about and listen and learn about what does the British royal family actually do? This is an honest to God serious question that I think many Americans have. Now, up until recently, I learned a little more about this, but I would have said the British royal family is just sort of this ceremonial, like they don't have any real power. They're just kind of a remnant of the past royalty, based on tradition. Individuals that are to be respected because they're an important part of UK history, but they don't really have any actual power or duties other than making public appearances and waving at the crowd, doing the little wave. I don't know. That's what I would have said. Now, I have learned a bit more about UK Parliament recently. So I've learned about the House of Commons, the House of Lords, and the third part of Parliament, the Crown. The Crown, royalty. Royalty is the same as the Crown. It better be, or my whole premise here is gonna fall apart. But when I say crown, I think of like Game of Thrones or something. The crown. You must take the crown. Anyway, uh, that's one way to get off track. But now that I know a little bit more about how Parliament is structured, there was a part that was explaining that British royalty, the crown, actually has a real job to do. If I remember, they sign off on laws like they're the final person, almost like the American president, who is oftentimes the final person to actually put their signature on bills to put them into actual law. They've essentially that is the final step. Every other house, every other senate has passed them. Every other government institution has passed it, and it just needs a signature. And that's kind of what I remember of maybe the crown's duty. I don't know who, if it would be the highest ranking member, the Queen. I don't know. And as far as the British royal family, UK royal, would that mean the royal family, since it's British, doesn't include Northern Ireland? Look at me. I'm a stickler. I'm a stickler for the details now. Now that I know what's going on a little bit more. Could you say UK royal family? UK royal family? This says British royal family. Is that, I mean, that's an important distinction, right? Yeah. Okay. This all says British. So I'm going to go with British royal family and assume that that is very intentional. That it is not the UK, it's the British royal family. All right, fair enough. I think I've set the premise far and away long enough here. Let's get to it.
Unimaginable privileges. Being a member of the British royal family isn't all fun and parties. They also have actual duties to perform. These
Really?
various tasks.
I mean, this guy right off the bat, that's the major thing. That 99% of Americans, I would think, really don't know that the royal family has any real duties. I truly did think until recently that it was just this based on sort of tradition, that they were there to honor the tradition of royalty. Something like that.
Tasks and responsibilities keep Queen Elizabeth II and her family busy. But hey, living like a royal means working like a royal.
Now that's the part that Americans love to gravitate towards. The living like royalty. That's the part, that makes sense to an American. Living that lavish lifestyle in a castle somewhere with jewels, servants to bring you whatever you want. That's the part that, not a huge surprise grabs the attention of the American audience, thinking that that's the life royalty lives. But it's cool to know that they actually have like civic duties that they have to take care of.
So, today we're going to take a look at what the British royal family actually does. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel. After that, we'd be much obliged if you would leave a comment and let us know.
You know what? I appreciate this guy saying that. Weird History channel. I admire that. That gets a like. Here we go.
What
I
other
can
royal
appreciate
topics
that.
you would like to hear about? Okay, so take a look at this video that is fit for a queen.
The whole royal family pitches
Ever
in.
since she became queen in 1952, Elizabeth II has been something of a royal workhorse. Unlike some of the weirder
Really?
and lazier royals in history,
I didn't realize there was a concept of lazy royals and royals that are not lazy. is that the opposite of lazy? Not lazy? That's kind of the default I go to. But I would say I don't really know much about Queen Elizabeth II at all, other than what she looks like. I don't know what her personality is, what her viewpoints are. That is not at all when British royalty is featured in American news or I suppose some people like to dive deep into that, but they always just seem caught up in royal weddings and, when people pass away and other just major events, kind of surface level. They never talk about their actual personalities, except I know there are some things in American news that dive kind of deeper into that, but personally, I don't know anything about royalty or British royalty in particular as well. The individuals.
who may have ignored their responsibilities. Queen Elizabeth completes all of the duties expected of a British monarch on a daily basis, and she takes her work very seriously.
I can admire that. I think that's very admirable, being born into such a position. Just hitting the genetic lottery. I mean, maybe that's not the right word. It's not like she's 6'9", like that genetic lottery, but like, the family lottery. She was born to be a queen. That's what I'm trying to say. If you're gonna have that happen to somebody, it's really great to see it happen to someone who is kind, who understands the privileged position that they have been given, and that the position deserves respect. And that sounds like exactly what she's doing, respecting the position.
From attending events to conducting tours abroad, these various jobs show how members of the royal family work as a form of public service.
Well, that's the one part I would have assumed royalty does do. Like, all the time, attend events, they just show up, they kind of wave. The waving, very important skill, the waving. But that's the part I kind of knew about.
The Queen, however, isn't the only royal who has work to do. Her husband, Prince Philip, helped shoulder some of her responsibilities for decades.
Prince Philip, I know his face, I'm familiar with his name, and that is about it. I don't really know much else about Prince Philip.
Their children, Prince Charles, Princess Anne, Prince Andrew, and Prince Edward, also take on royal duties full-time, as have some of the royal grandchildren.
Okay, these two I know. Prince William, Prince Harry. These seem to be some of the most featured individuals in British royalty in American media, for sure. The fact that I know their faces, I pretty much knew their names. I probably would have got them mixed up. Duke of Cambridge, Duke of Sussex? Sussex? Don't get mad at me. I'm a noob. But yeah, I know these guys.
Children, including Prince William, Duke of Cambridge, and his brother Harry, Duke of Sussex. It's good to be the Queen, but despite what many think, members of the British royal family don't just sit around all day doing whatever they want.
And a huge part of this is that Americans just have no concept of royalty. There was never any kind of royal institution in American history, ever. So this concept, although we're very familiar with it, our minds go to knights and castles and the 14th century, or the UK when we think of royalty. That's honestly exactly where our mind goes, because it's so well known in America that Britain has royalty. But as far as like things that are applicable to us, Americans, no real concept of what royalty does in their day-to-day life. We know it. I know what they're for. Don't get me wrong. I mean more like modern royalty, especially.
They're actually expected to do stuff, but what kind of stuff? Well,
Expected to
royal
do
labor usually means attending a wide range of functions, from public charity events to private meetings, openings, and just about everything in between. The
Lot of
Queen has
meetings.
always undertaken a lot of these engagements personally, but she's not the only one that's eligible.
And that's important. You know, if that's going to be one of the main parts of your job, I guess it's important to take it seriously. It's not, and I'm sure when you are the queen, it seems way more taxing and hard, and everyone wants your attention and everyone wants to see you. From her point of view, it's probably hell having to do this constantly, every day of the week, make appearances, and it's easy to criticize it as a normal person. So I can respect that, and yeah.
To do it. Anyone in the family could theoretically attend these engagements as a royal representative. In fact, in 2018,
And my other thought was, when you're the person in Britain showing up to an event, and from your point of view as a normal person, that's a huge day for you, that you get to see the Queen or see the Prince or any member of royalty. That's a huge moment in your life that you're going to remember and you're going to talk about with your friends sometime. So I think maybe the Queen recognizes that, or other members of royalty. They respect their positions, and they respect the fact that making these appearances is actually significant for those people attending who get to see them. It's a big moment for them. It may seem like just another Tuesday for the royalty, but it's a big deal for most people, I imagine. Fun, if nothing else, you get to see the Queen.
the Queen's two eldest children, Prince Charles and Princess Anne, attended the most engagements on her behalf.
It's the Queen's job to officially open Parliament every year. Now we're getting into more legal, official duty.
Queen Elizabeth may only be the head of the country in a symbolic sense, but she still participates in some important state ceremonies. Perhaps the most significant ceremony she performs is the annual opening of Parliament, each May.
Oh, wow, look at this. I've never seen her in the Queen garb. She's always just in the super high fashion stuff that I could never pull off. Not that I would commonly be found wearing a fancy hat that an older woman would want to wear, but this is a queen look, you know? We got the crown, the jewels. I've never seen her like this.
A new session of Parliament begins. Wearing the trappings of monarchy, including her crown and robes, the Queen delivers a speech to officially signal the opening of the government.
Okay, and she's dressed up in this traditional kind of outfit because it's kind of a tradition that they're doing. Opening Parliament with her speech.
She has missed the opening of Parliament only a handful of times in her decades of rule. Not a bad record by any measure.
Look at that throne. My God. Is that all real gold? Man. And you got the carpet, the throne, the pillars, this guy on the left with the crazy hair. Wow. And that guy has a sword? That's a whole other thing, knighting people. I totally forgot about knighthood and that stuff. I gotta watch a video on knighthood. That stuff's all badass. Anyway.
Once upon a time, England was a monarchy where the king ruled with an iron fist. But in 1215, the Magna Carta started to limit the sovereign's powers. And now, that unchecked authority is long gone.
Okay, so 1215. Oh, geez. 800 years ago? About? Yeah, almost exactly 800 years ago, the powers of the crown stopped being so absolute, so formal, in which you literally had a king who was a king, got whatever he wanted, no matter how unreasonable.
Today, the United Kingdom is a constitutional monarchy, which means the king or queen's powers are severely limited. It's the members of parliament that actually run the country now.
I think this is one of the coolest things about Great Britain, is that they kept the royalty aspect. It's It's a fascinating, important part of UK history, or British history. I don't want to say UK incorrectly, and include Northern Ireland. I'm trying to be very, very proper with my terms here. Let me know if I'm incorrect here. I'm trying to be a stickler. Now that I know all this great info. But it's one of the best parts. It's super cool that they were able to keep the royalty around, that institution intact. It's kind of fun, for lack of a better word. It's fun and interesting, and kind of a nod to sort of a long-lost way of life. So they're more there just as a public service, almost, and to maintain tradition, which is good when it's, within reason, which this very much is. It works with the democracy, the parliament aspect of the UK, having the royalty just be kind of there as a subtle nod to it. I think that makes it super cool.
The monarch. In the modern constitutional monarchy, the monarch acts as something of a rubber stamp. Elizabeth gives her approval, known as the royal assent, for all legislation passed by Parliament.
Yes, that shocked me when I first heard it in a previous video explaining British Parliament, that the Queen, to this day, actually gets to sign off or stamp with her big giant rubber stamp, how I imagine it in my head, a giant rubber stamp with a big crown on it. That's how it works. That's how I decree it works. She gets to actually legally sign off on laws and bills, be that final person, which I had no idea that something that official in relationship to royalty, there was still that connection. Very interesting. The monarch gives royal assent. Royal assent. Is that like knighthood? Ascent up into royalty? Or a status? That's what I think.
One of the most crucial aspects of the United Kingdom's constitutional monarchy is the fact that the monarch has traditionally been apolitical. The king or queen is supposed to transcend politics by representing...
Apolitical. Yeah, I never thought of that. That the monarch is supposed to be apolitical. I guess that would cause a whole controversy. If the king or queen were very politically active, it would kind of... That figure, that king or queen, is such a big figure, such a looming presence in British society, I assume. I don't know for sure, but in British culture, that if they had like a constant political view that they were expressing, it would just be, it'd be too much, I think. It would probably kind of ruin things, kind of put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths towards royalty, which isn't any good. So I never thought about that, but it makes total sense that they're apolitical.
The whole of the nation. As such, the monarch is expected to always give royal assent. Whether the queen truly has the power to withhold royal assent in the modern era is a matter of some debate.
Royal assent, what is that? Royal assent. Royal assent. We keep using that word. The method by which a monarch formally approves an act of the legislature, either directly or through... What? Formally approves acts of legislator. Oh, I thought we just talked about that with the big rubber stamp. Maybe this is slightly different? Not sure. Okay.
In reality, she usually just follows the advice of her ministers, who themselves are supported by Parliament. So it's unlikely they would ever advise her to withhold assent. That being the case, the issue has never arisen in the modern era.
Oh, is this saying that no royalty has ever stopped a law or bill from passing? They've always signed off. They have always signed off on it. That would make sense. Okay. Yes. I think that's what it's talking about.
In fact, it has literally been centuries since the king or queen has withheld royal assent. Queen Anne's refusal to grant arms to Scottish militias in 1707 was the last time a monarch refused it. Royal assent may...
I could see a queen or king taking a political stance when it comes to like starting a war, supplying weapons to a nation for war. I could see where they could let their bias slip in there to where this queen literally would not sign off on some bill to provide weapons to someone. So, very interesting.
May be given in an elaborate ceremony. The Queen could appear personally in the House of Lords to execute this function, but she usually doesn't. In fact, the last time a sovereign appeared in person at Parliament for this purpose was during the reign of Queen Victoria in 1854. The Queen may also appoint Lords Commissioners, who could announce that royal assent has been granted during a ceremony held at the Palace of Westminster. However, royal assent is more typically granted in writing via what are called letters patent.
Yeah, that all makes sense. They entertain 70,000 guests at official royal events. Oh my god. This is the part where it's like, most people probably don't realize how much a pain this part of the job probably is. It's like they have to fulfill their role as a celebrity of sorts. And entertain all. What does entertain the guests mean? Do they have to shake 70,000 hands? That would like rub the skin off your bone by the end of it. She must have really, if she's shaking hands, 70,000 a pop, she must have really strong finger strength.
Royals also need to be able to throw a good party. Tens of thousands of people turn out for events hosted by the Windsors. In fact, the royal family...
The Windsors? What does that mean? The Windsors. Windsors. We're getting a lot of terms today that I just don't know. Windsors? House of Windsor? Reigning royal house. So is that... Okay, Elizabeth II is the current head. So Elizabeth Windsor? Is that be her last name? Huh, that's a cool... The House of Windsor. That's cool. I never knew that. That was the name of the current reigning royal house of the UK. And now we're calling it the UK. And before we were calling it Britain. Come on, I thought there was a difference. Okay, I digress.
Estimates that they host around 70,000 people annually for various official functions.
My God.
One of the biggest series of events each year are the Royal Garden Parties, which host 30,000...
Garden parties. Could you come up with something more fitting of royalty or high class than a garden party? I must attend the royal garden party. I'm not trying to poke too much fun, but I've never been to a garden party. I wish they'd invite me. I wish I could. I'm jealous. I'm jelly.
People in London and Edinburgh throughout the summer. Official royal events are, of course, by invitation only. And garden party invitees often work in public service.
That's nice. That's actually nice that the invitees to the garden parties are like working class people. I figured this was going to be snubbed for just high class, kind of just below royalty, invite only. But if they're inviting working class people and more common people into these garden parties to kind of mingle with the common man, I love that. Then my respect. I misinterpreted it a little bit.
Tasks the Queen must perform is honoring distinguished individuals through official ceremonies. Two times a year, on New Year's and the Queen's birthday, the Queen announces a list of individuals who will receive knighthoods and appointments into royal orders.
Yes!
Some of the royal honors.
The knighthood, yes, 2 times a year, if I heard correctly.
Individuals who will receive knighthoods and appointments into royal orders.
Cool.
Some of the royal honors include the Order of the British Empire.
The only knight I can name is Paul McCartney, because I am a fan of Sir Paul McCartney. So I tip my hat to him.
Those who have received these honors go through an investiture ceremony in which the Queen, or another high-ranking member of the royal family acting as
Speaking. Okay, all right. They knew I was a Beatles fan. Good to see. This is what's wrong with Beatles fans, that we all think of Paul first and never give credit to Ringo here. You know, he's a knight too.
Them with a medal. Some of the more famous individuals who have received knighthoods include Anthony Hopkins, Elton John, Dame Judi Dench, Alfred Hitchcock, and Richard Branson.
Yeah, I know these people. I know these people. I know something about things in the world. Members of the royal family patronize about 3,000 charities combined. Patronize, as in be a patron, like attend, or are part of 3,000 charities, if I think that's what it's saying. That's pretty noble.
One of the most meaningful roles members of the royal family have is to act as patrons of charities.
Oh, does that mean promote? Because as far as I know, when we don't use the word patronize, except it actually means to antagonize. In America, it means to antagonize or make fun of or rile up, to patronize. To patronize would be to be a patron of, as in someone who is using the service, so that would kind of mean to be a part of or go to. But in this sense, I believe they're saying the British royalty are acting as representatives of the charities, helping to get funding for them, which is great.
High-ranking member of the family chooses a variety of charities to patronize. Being a royal patron means being a kind of spokesperson and PR representative.
Okay.
The royal family member's name brings valuable exposure to the individual charity.
Yeah,
The Queen alone has helped raise over £1 billion for charities.
Yeah, I can only imagine what having the Queen, promoting your charity would do. It'd probably do something. Be kind of good for your charity. That's cool. That's cool that the royalty, that they all are a part of that. That's a great use of, if you're going to have high status and power and responsibility, that's a great use of it for charitable means. I love that.
Royal family members usually patronize charities that reflect their interests. Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, majored in art history at the University of St. Andrews, and now patronizes a number of arts organizations, including London's National Portrait Gallery. Prince William, Duke of Cambridge, is royal patron to Tusk Trust, formed to conserve wildlife and promote education and community development across Africa. And
I was like, Tusk Trust? What on earth could that mean? It's talking about tusks. They said tusk and it meant tusk. Who knew? But that's cool. Wildlife preservation. That's always cool.
Centerpoint, which aims to provide housing and services to homeless youth.
That's great. That's great. Most high-ranking royal family members support the Queen full-time. Support. What are we saying with support the Queen? As in support her decisions? Her ideals? Or physical support? I'm not sure what that means. I guess the most obvious is it would mean just help her get done whatever it is she needs to get done. That would be a simple way of looking at it.
Elizabeth has tirelessly done her duties as queen for decades, but she has always had other high-ranking members of the royal family around to shoulder some of her responsibilities.
Yes, okay.
All of her children and some of her grandchildren undertake official responsibilities full-time.
That makes
These
sense.
working royals spend their days exclusively performing royal duties. Other royals take on some royal tasks while still maintaining their own careers. The Queen's granddaughter...
Careers. See, I don't know what the career... Well, man, this is what I say. When royalty isn't part of your nation or your culture, it's hard to even say I've thought about this. I suppose if you're a member of British royalty and you're not the Queen, you're just one of the grandchildren like these two individuals or someone else, a descendant, you have a life, you have a career, you want to accomplish things in your life. You don't just want to say, hey, I'm royalty, that defines me, that's all I am, and that's the end of me, see ya. No, you want to go accomplish things with your life and do things. So, I mean, funny enough, that's just yet another thing. Like if we had royalty in America, then I would have, at this point in my life, been made aware of members of royalty performing things in companies or in activities around the nation, in organizations, and I would have thought in my brain, the members of royalty actually do things to further their own careers. But since we don't have that, I've literally never thought about it.
For example, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie both also have jobs outside the royal family. Princess Beatrice, for example, has been a sales associate at the high-end department store Selfridges, worked in the Foreign Office's press office, performed as an extra in the 2009 movie The Young Victoria, interned at Sony Pictures, and now serves as Vice President of Partnerships and Strategy at the software company Affinity.
Yeah, that's cool. Just having some, like, honest, random jobs, like anyone's career. That's cool.
Princess Eugenie, on the other hand, worked at the auction house Paddle 8 and later took a directing position at art gallery Hauser and Wirth. Both princesses, however, still perform some royal duties.
Now, I'm sure being a princess or related to royalty is going to give you a bit of a leg up. If you want that certain internship or whatever position, you're gonna, if you can put it right on your resume, direct descendant of Queen Elizabeth II, like right under that you worked part-time at McDonald's, then that's probably going to get some attention and get you a little bit of a leg up. But that's no fault of them, you know, that you can't control the circumstances of your birth, only what you do from there. So I can't blame them for maybe tacking that on and trying to, you know, work on their career. And it sounds like they've done an honest job of that.
On the other hand, Prince Harry, who along with his wife Meghan Markle, stepped down as senior members of the royal family. Though the monarch is not explicitly a political figure, Elizabeth is expected to roll out the red carpet for VIPs. In fact, she typically hosts a lavish...
This is most of the time where Americans are even exposed to any kind of view of British royalty. Is in the news or some kind of snapshot where you'd see something like this, where they are welcoming an American president or something like that. That's most of the time where I've seen a headline or two talking about things like that. That's where most of my knowledge would even come from. Little things like that.
State dinner at Buckingham Palace for visiting heads of state. These formal events usually include elaborate menus and goodwill toasts. Many American presidents who visit the United Kingdom on official state visits have received this treatment, including the Bushes and Obamas.
Okay. Cool. Commonwealth tours and 100,000 letters. I hope to God that the royalty does not have to write 100,000 handwritten letters. And do they give tours? Is that what Commonwealth tours means? Is it part of their duty?
Elizabeth isn't just the monarch of the United Kingdom. She's also the head of the Commonwealth of Nations.
Okay, the Commonwealth of Nations. I've heard this phrase now a few times. I do not know what that is. I really need to learn about what that is, the Commonwealth of Nations, because it seems kind of important. That's an understatement. And this narrator just called her the monarch of the United Kingdoms, not of Great Britain. So again, my confusion is justified, I think. If I'm a lawyer here, that's my argument.
Just the monarch of the United Kingdom. She's also the head of the Commonwealth of Nations, an organization of states that were once part of the British Empire. As you might expect...
Okay. Yes, I am familiar because the UK flag appears on many, many, many other flags, oftentimes in the corner. And those must all be associated with the UK, obviously. And I think that kind of is an indication of who's a part of the Commonwealth of Nations. That's me inferring with, you know, my little detective skills.
But Elizabeth takes this role seriously. She has personally undertaken Commonwealth tours to places like Australia, Jamaica, and Kenya.
Commonwealth tour. Tour as in going abroad to a foreign land, representing the UK. All right, that's cool. Yes, that's an important, being an ambassador for the nation, you know? That's cool. That's cool. That makes sense.
She visits with officials and civilians alike to cultivate cultural, business, and charitable links between countries.
Cool.
In recent decades, her children and grandchildren have undertaken Commonwealth tours in her stead, including the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge's visit to Australia in 2014 with the young Prince George.
Has the Queen ever done a Commonwealth tour to America? I honestly cannot say. That would be an event right there. I feel like I would have heard about that. But knowing what little I know, it very well could have happened and I would have no idea. Huh.
As arguably the most well-known royal family in the world, the Windsors receive mountains of mail annually. Royal family members receive and respond to, on average, 100,000 pieces of mail
Wow.
a year. These include everything from fan letters to invitations to functions. The Queen herself is shown almost all of her correspondence on a daily basis by one of her private secretaries.
Really?
And according to the royal family's official website, where you can find information on
how to write to the Queen. That's cool. I need to write to the Queen. She's actually going to get maybe shown my letter in a pile of letters about 2,000 high for the day, and then maybe have one of her assistants take care of it. But for a moment, she might see a corner of my letter. There's just no way. It's not physically possible that she reads and personally responds to every letter. I get that. I don't even expect that.
How you can write to her and how she should be addressed. She takes a keen interest in the letters she receives.
Whoa, what's that?
How you can write to her and how she should be addressed. She takes a keen interest.
I have the honor to be, Madame, Your Majesty's humble and obedient servant. That is traditional, very formal. But when you're writing the Queen, you know, I'd be willing to put it. I'm writing the Queen, for crying out loud.
Interest in the letters she receives. However,
wait. This traditional approach is by no means obligatory. You should feel free to write in whatever style you feel possible. Wow, that's nice of them. I could write my letter to the Queen and be like, "What's up, dog? What's going on?" Then she'd think I was from the stuck in the 90s or something, because no one's used dog like that in about 30, 40 years. But anyway, that's what I'd say to her. What can you do?
How she should be addressed. She takes a keen interest in the letters she receives. However, if you're writing to try and get the Queen to take sides in a personal or political dispute, don't bother. Her Majesty will not intervene in any such conflict.
What? Like you're gonna write the Queen? I mean, I bet people do this. They get passionate enough about some kind of political ongoings, and they think they're gonna write the Queen and have her make like an executive action against something. Lower the price of cat food now. No, we don't intervene in politics, but thank you for your letter, you obedient servant of the lands.
And letters asking her to do so will receive a boilerplate reply explaining as much. Also, don't bother sending the Queen any unsolicited gifts. They can't and won't be accepted.
They act as unofficial ambassadors for the UK. Well, yes, this is first and foremost, this is what Americans think the duty of British royalty is, to be the unofficial ambassador of the UK. That right there is a perfect way of saying what every American thinks is the one and only duty of British royalty.
Though Queen Elizabeth maintains residences and palaces throughout the United Kingdom, she doesn't always get to enjoy them as much as she'd like, because her royal duties often take her abroad. By 2015, she had made no fewer than 265 overseas visits.
Wow, that's almost every day. More than every other day. This is what I mean, is how when you are the Queen, only then do you realize you don't get to spend all your time sitting around in your castle, on your waterbed, on your cozy, cushiony couch, let's say, with royal stuffing. You don't get to even do that and be fed grapes off the vine. You're out having to do important royal tasks. You don't get to enjoy the high life most of the time. So that's something that a lot of people in America don't really appreciate, probably.
She's not the only one. Other members of the royal family have conducted overseas trips, which are sometimes political in nature. In the wake of the United Kingdom's vote to leave the European Union, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, in particular, have been recruited to visit European nations and conduct a so-called charm offensive. The goal
Charm offensive. Come on, who said that? Was that really how they defined it? You know, it makes sense. Charm offensive, okay.
It's been to offer goodwill and smooth over Brexit tensions. We'll see how that works. So what do you think? How much would you like to be...
Okay, that's it. Wow. That, that was informative. That was fascinating. It's amazing how much your opinion and outlook changes with just watching a 10-minute video here. Like, for instance, I've watched a couple others, but my entire outlook on British royalty couldn't be more different. I mean, in a lot of respects, they do perform the tasks and duties that most Americans think, but there's a lot more to it than that. And all you have to do is freaking search for it on the internet in this day and age and learn a thing or two. I'm really glad I watched this. This was very interesting. I don't know if there's any more to learn about British royalty, or at least take a deeper dive look into their lives, or maybe some of the interesting moments. I don't know. That might turn out to be something I look into later in the future. But for now, this was great. This was really interesting. So, anyway, if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this reaction, feel free to leave it a like or a comment. And if you're interested in watching more videos like this, more reactions like this towards UK topics, feel free to subscribe to the channel for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.